Happy Monday, everyone. And yes, I am moving around already today. Um, this is week 9, the last week of our semester. And this is kind of get our stuff done, get it turned in, and ready to be graded day and week. Okay, so we have our motivational Monday here. If at first you don't succeed, you're normal. All right, and so that's really going to be our theme today. Is you're normal. We're going to get this done. We're going to get through it, and it's going to be a great week. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Agenda today, you're going to have the opportunity here, and again, I'm just moving myself all over the place. Um, we're going to work on that argument writing, getting everything put together. We've done that. We're going to review the rubric, and you're going to have an opportunity to make some corrections after we go over that rubric, and you're going to do some annotations as well. And then finish that December evaluate if that's what you need to do. All right. So we're going to understand the success criteria. So going over to our learning target here. So understand the success criteria for the final draft of the argument essay. And then our success criteria for this is 1, review the argument rubric, 2, annotate your argument to show the mastery of those success criteria, and then resubmit my argument essay after making the necessary mastery annotations. So that's what we're working on today. So first things first, let's talk our rubric. Now you do have this rubric in Canvas, all right? So you'll be able to go back and click on it within the module. But I do have the link here in the slides as well, and I'm going to actually be using that link to open up our rubric and the rubric that really I'm using for the argument, okay? So again, you've taken all of these sections from all of our pre-writing and you put it together in that nice little essay. And so what I'm going to be looking for are these things. So I'm looking at each section, I'm looking at each part, I'm looking at each paragraph. I'm nitpicking, I'm looking closely and carefully at it because we've taken quite a lot of time to write this argument. So first things first, I'm looking at the introduction. Now you'll notice that each of these sections, each of the paragraphs in your argument are worth 10 points. All right. And then I've got the breakdown there at the top. So everything in that second column is right here. Everything in this second column is 10 points. Everything, or if we want to go column 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, everything in column 2 is worth 10 points. Everything in column 3 is worth 8 points, 4, 6 points, and 5, 4 points. Okay. And then I have that criteria. So the success criteria, what you need to meet to get full credit. So to get all of the 10 points, or what 8 points looks like, or what 6 points will look like, or what 4 points will look like. So in that introduction, full credit is the introduction contains an interesting hook, adequate background information, and your thesis statement. That's 10 points. That's if you have all of that in there, then I mean, the hook has to be interesting. It's not just some boring run of the mill hook. All right. And you had a couple of videos that you could have watched to help you with that. 8 points is your intro contains a hook. You've got a hook in there, adequate background information, and your thesis. Now, 6 out of 10 points, it's the introduction is missing the hook, some of the background, or the thesis statement, or a combination of those elements. So you're missing some things in there. And then 4 is you don't even have an introduction there. All right. So let's get down to our conclusion. Again, everything in that second column is 10 points. So your conclusion begins with the appropriate concluding transition. And remember, you had a list of those to work from. And you restate your thesis using different words and includes that final thought. All right. So that's full credit, 10 points. 8 points, conclusion restates the thesis and gives that final thought. But you're missing that transition. Okay. 4 or 6 points, conclusion only restates their thesis or only gives that final thought. You're only representing one element or presenting one element. And then 4 is there's no conclusion at all. Okay. Organization. Now remember, this is how your body paragraphs are organized. So the argument is well organized in a logical manner, following the same order presented in your thesis statement. Okay, so however you have it outlined in your thesis statement, that's what I should see your body paragraphs. Okay, it follows in that order. Um, you have appropriate and varied transitions between each of those body paragraphs. That's a 10. That's that perfect score. 8, the argument is organized in that logical manner in the same order as presented in the thesis statement, so you have to have that. And then you have appropriate transitions are used to begin each body paragraph. Now, again, the example or the difference between a 10 and an 8 here is really with your transitions. Are you using maybe the not so common transitions in the correct way? All right. Or did you just stick with first and second? Okay. Those are kind of the normal transitions. And so that's going to get you an 8. So if you have the varied transitions and appropriate transitions, then it's going to score a little higher. All right. A 6, the argument is organized in a logical manner, but does not follow the order presented in the thesis statement. Okay, and no transitions are used. A 4 is there are major organizational errors, or the essay lacks some organization, or you're just kind of all over the place. Okay, now we get down to that content. So body paragraph 1, and really it's the same for body paragraph 1 and body paragraph 2. Okay, um, ideas and evidence for a 10. Ideas, evidence, and explanation support the claim exceptionally well. All right, you've gone above and beyond. Evidence is cited by stating the source, author, and direct quote. And again, each body paragraph is using that race. So that's the same for body paragraph 1 and body paragraph 2. That's going to get you 10 points. 8 points. The ideas, evidence, and explanation support the claim. There are minor mistakes when introducing evidence. You might be missing the title of the source or the author. You do use race, but it lacks really that deeper thinking, okay, and the explanation of the evidence. And that's for, again, body paragraphs 1 and 2, and that's an 8. So that would be a B. Now, for 6 points, the ideas, evidence, and explanations are inadequate or slightly off topic. It means you might have some evidence in there, but it's not quite supporting your topic sentence, all right, which is then supporting your thesis statement. Evidence is not introduced. There's no title of the source or author included. You're missing some of those elements of race. And then 4 points, the essay lacks any ideas, supporting evidence, and explanation. It's just like you started to write something and didn't really have kind of a vision for where it was going. So that's your body paragraphs 1 and 2. Now we get down to that counterclaim and rebuttal. Now this paragraph is 20 points. Okay, because you've got 2 elements in there. You've got your counterclaim I'm looking at, and you've got the rebuttal I'm looking at. So there's more going on with this paragraph than just the first 2 body paragraphs. So let's dive into this. So 10 points, perfect score on this. The counterclaim and rebuttal are exceptionally written. Okay, again, you're doing that deeper thinking. The counterclaim is introduced using that appropriate transition. You clearly state the counterclaim and you support it with evidence from the text. Okay, the evidence is introduced by including the title and author of the source. The rebuttal is clearly stated, all right, clearly relates to that counterclaim. So you're talking about the same thing when I say it clearly relates, where it's you say one thing and your rebuttal is matching up with that. You're on that same topic. The rebuttal clearly relates to the counterclaim and proves the counterclaim is incorrect. The rebuttal is supported with relevant evidence and thoroughly explains why and how it proves that counterclaim wrong. You can't just have the evidence and say, and you leave it at that. Okay, you need to explain how this is proving your counterclaim incorrect. I got that, reported. Okay, then we're down here at that last sentence. The evidence is introduced by including the title, author, and the source. Okay, so you're going to get full 20 points if you have all of those things met. Um, sorry, that's going to be the next down here. So is the counterclaim is introduced using a transition, clearly stated and supported with evidence from the text. The evidence is introduced by including one of the following, and I'm going to go ahead and fix that right here. one of the following. So title or um, or the source. The rebuttal relates to the counterclaim and proves the counterclaim incorrect. So in between that, like the full credit and then partial credit, you still have to have. All right, the counterclaim still has to, or the rebuttal still has to relate to that counterclaim. Um, the rebuttal relates to, I have that. The rebuttal is supported with evidence and explains why and how it proves the counterclaim wrong. The evidence is introduced by including one of the following: the title or author of the source. All right. So again, it's like that for that 20 points, you're kind of going above and beyond and thoroughly explaining everything. Then that next step down for that B paper is you hit all the points, but don't really go above and beyond. Okay. Um, then next step down, the counterclaim is addressed and somewhat debunked or refuted by including the rebuttal. So debunked just means you're telling that it's wrong. All right. Elements include transition to the counterclaim and or rebuttal, evidence to support either the counterclaim and or rebuttal, and or explanation of the evidence. So you're missing either the counterclaim or the rebuttal. So you're missing some elements there, is basically what this one is talking about. And then again, the last column here, the lowest score on this is there's no counterclaim or rebuttal. That paragraph is just left out. All right. So last thing I'm looking at to round out the rubric here are the grammar and mechanics. I'm looking at that. I always look at that, and that's always part of your grade. So for the exceptional, that 10, there are no grammatical or punctuation errors. Sentences are varied. We've talked about varied sentences this semester, this quarter. So you've got some of those. You've got a combination of simple, complex, compound, and then those compound and complex sentences. So you're trying out that sentence variety. Second step down, there are a couple minor errors. Sentences are varied by including some simple, compound, complex, and compound complex sentences. So again, you're trying that sentence variety. Then down to that 6, there are a few errors. There are a few minor errors. Only a few attempts were made to vary the sentence structure and types. And then that last, there are errors that make it difficult to read, relies on only a few sentence structures. All right. So this is your rubric. And again, you have access to this in your module for today as well. Okay. So you've got the link here in the slides, but you also have it in the module. All right. So that's what I'm looking for. And so this is where you are going to annotate that you have met those requirements. So again, that's another way that you can double check that you have everything there. Okay, you've got all of those requirements that we saw on that rubric. So you are going to annotate. So if you've turned it in, you're going to resubmit it. Okay, you are not going to get points off for being late, but I do want you to double check because I did look at some of the arguments that were turned in, and this step needs to happen. Okay, and I'm just going to be honest, this step needs to happen for you to get that full credit. Because remember, this is a test grade in Skyward. Okay, so this is like 80% of your grade. So we want to make sure that you are doing all of the work that's going to get you the grade you need to keep your grade where it is or to raise your grade from where it currently is. Okay, so these are the annotations that you're going to be doing. So for the introduction, you're going to underline the hook, you're going to italicize the background, and you're going to bold the thesis statement. In the first 2 body paragraphs, you're going to highlight those topic sentences in yellow. You're going to highlight the source citation and author in aqua. So you're going to use that aqua color. You're going to highlight the evidence from the text in that light purple. You're going to highlight the evidence explaining, all right, the evidence explanation in green, and it's the green color that I have here. And then you're going to highlight the concluding sentence in a light blue, okay? And I will show you where all of these are in just a moment when we look at my example. Okay, so counterclaim and rebuttal paragraph. Remember, this one's going to be bigger than the other 2 because you've got 2 elements that you're putting in here. So for your counterclaim, you're going to bold the transition to the counterclaim because remember, you needed to have that in there. Then you're going to bold and italicize the counterclaim, so what your counterclaim is. Then again, source citation for the counterclaim is in that aqua. You're going to highlight it. So source citation for the counterclaim and the author is in aqua. Light purple, again, is that evidence to support the counterclaim. Then you're going to go, because you don't have to explain that evidence for the counterclaim, you just need to have it in there. Then I should see next in that paragraph, you're going to bold your transition to the rebuttal. Okay. You're going to highlight the source citation for the rebuttal and the author. That's going to be in aqua. You're going to highlight the text evidence to support the rebuttal. That's going to be light purple. Then you're going to bold and italicize the rebuttal. Okay. And then in green, you're going to highlight in green the evidence to explain, or the explanation to the evidence. And that's going to be in green. And that's for your rebuttal. You do have to explain how your evidence proves that your rebuttal is disproving or telling that the counterclaim is wrong. So it is very important that you explain that evidence, okay? You have to explain that evidence. Now, for this paragraph, you may have your rebuttal right next to your transition to your rebuttal, okay? In my example one, I didn't. But this would be the only thing that could be like out of order, okay? Is if your rebuttal is right next to your transition. How I wrote mine, it isn't necessarily right there, okay? And I will show you that in our example. All right, let's get down to the last one, the conclusion. So that very last paragraph, you're going to underline the transition to your conclusion. You're going to bold your restated thesis, and you're going to italicize your final thought, okay? This outline right here is the order in which I should see it presented in your argument. Now, remember, the only exception to that is where you have your rebuttal. If you have your rebuttal right next to your transition to the rebuttal, or if you have it like after your evidence, okay? That's really kind of the only place where you're going to play around with that organization. Everything else should be exactly as I have it here on the slide, okay? So for the annotation key, remember you're going to go back to your final draft and you're going to annotate it using this key over here to the right. Remember, the purpose of this is to demonstrate that you can find those elements in your own writing. All right. And hopefully it's been a day or so since you've looked at your argument, that now you can go back and look at it with fresh eyes, and you've slept, you've got fresh eyes, fresh mind on it. And so you can find these things and make some corrections if you need to. So then basically it shows the mastery. It shows me that you have mastery of the standard. If you can correctly highlight and annotate, underline, italicize, bold your argument. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at my example. All right, so here is my example, and I have that annotation key right here on top of mine. You do not have to do that. Okay, you can if it's going to help you, so you don't have to toggle back and forth. You are not required to. I just have it there so I could go through. I put it on mine so I could go through and annotate it correctly. Okay, so let me, if this is going to let me, there we go. Maybe not. Okay, here we are. So right here I have underlined my hook. Right here is that background. Unfortunately, Americans are constantly trying to beat the clock. They're overworked, overstressed, overwhelmed. All of that was that background. Then I have my thesis statement here, bold. All right. Now you'll notice that everything that or my body paragraphs are following the same order as my thesis statement. Okay. So, therefore, the microwave has revolutionized the way humanity prepares meals by speeding up the cooking process. And right down here in my first body paragraph, I have speeding up the cooking process. Costs less and takes up less space in the kitchen. If I scroll down a little further, oops, I'm a little too far. There we go. I have right here that preparing meals, it costs less and takes up less space. Second one here is it costs less and takes up less space. And then despite the use of radiation, the technology is safe. And then that's what my counterclaim and rebuttal is. All right. So again, you have here my topic sentence is in yellow. My citation is in that aqua. Now remember, to highlight, you are going to take your cursor and you're going to highlight the text that you want to highlight in a different color. Then you go up to that highlight, and this is where you're going to choose. So this is the aqua color that you're going to use. Okay, so make a mental note here. Yellow was pretty easy, but this is the aqua color that you're going to use for the citation. Then you have the light purple, and I'll go ahead and highlight my light purple here for my quote from the text. And so when I go up here to the highlight for the light purple, you'll see that the light purple is right here. Okay, so again, highlighting light purple right here underneath the purple. You just take the first one for the light purple. There you go. And then the green, this is where I am explaining my evidence. So right here, I'm going to highlight that so you can see exactly where I am choosing that green color from, and I expect you to choose the same right here. Okay, in that green column, it's like that fluorescent-y color green. And then the concluding sentence is in that light blue. So clicking on my highlight again, and I go to the light blue. This time underneath that blue column, or the royal blue column, I'm choosing the second light blue, not the first one. Okay, but those are the colors that you're going to use for those first two body paragraphs, so you can see that. Then we get down to our counterclaim and rebuttal. So I've got my transition. Some people would argue that that's bolded. My counterclaim is microwaves are not worth the purchase. That's in italicized, bold, and italicized. And again, you can choose those up here. And then I'm just using the same aqua and purple. So every time you are citing your source, that's in aqua. And every time you're giving a quote, it's in the light purple. There's my transition to my rebuttal. And here's my rebuttal. So I've got that bolded and italicized. And remember, you have to explain that as well. So every explanation is going to be in that green color. Then I have my transition to my conclusion. So to wrap it up, then I have my restated thesis. All right, that's bolded. And then italicized is my final thought. All right, so this is what you're working on today. Okay, so you've got this presentation to watch again. You've also got the slides in Canvas. December evaluate. If you see your name on these lists on these next two slides, then you need to finish that ASAP as soon as possible. All right. We need to get that in before the end of the quarter, which ends on Thursday this week. So you've got until Thursday to get this done. So December evaluate here if you see your name. So there's first, third, and fourth, and then fifth, sixth, and seventh. You can obviously go slower on that when you look at the slides. So today we focused on annotating your argument essay to show mastery of the argument writing standard. Final draft will be open until Wednesday, or actually Tuesday. I said that's wrong on here. I'm going to change that. It's open till Tuesday night. All right, so you've got till Tuesday evening to get that turned in. It is not Wednesday, it is Tuesday. So ignore. I'm going to cover this now. So you can't even see it. You can't even see that. It's not even there. Maybe it will let me or not. No, let me move me there. Fine, I'll just make my picture bigger. There we go. Now you know. All right. So I'm going to leave the argument open until Tuesday. It will close on Tuesday, not Wednesday. It will close on Tuesday. So you have till Tuesday, so tomorrow, till tomorrow to get it done. All right. And again, we've got our success criteria and our learning target there, understanding that success criteria for your final draft. All right. So that is your assignment today. I will see you guys again on Tuesday. Yeah, goodness. Week's flying by already. So have an awesome Monday, and I will see you all on Tuesday.